Good morning. Oh, am I echoing?
Yes, you are.
Oh no. Oh boy.
Oh
Sorry.
boy. Sorry. Oh no, now I'm echoing. Everything's a mess this morning. Good morning, everyone. Hey, Megan. How George? How you doing?
Hey,
Good?
Matt. What's up? Hey,
Good.
Megan.
Hi. Hi.
I gotta say, I was really hoping that we would have a better start than last week with my allergies and forgetting to turn stuff off on screen. But that's technology, isn't it?
It's
Yep.
definitely never going to work exactly as you want it to, and especially when it's live, which we are.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
let's get moving.
Yeah. I think if you guys can stand to listen to me, is it okay now? I just want to make sure I'm not annoying
Sounds
anyone.
great.
It's great. Okay. Welcome. So thank you all for watching that live intro. Welcome to Valiant Technologies Thursday live stream. We do this every Thursday. Thank you, Matt. You put the link down below. We have a YouTube channel. We have a very robust library full of content, a lot of these live streams, but also how-to videos that our training manager puts together. Check it out. If you have any IT questions, I'm sure we've answered it or explored the topic in depth philosophically. It's quite an itch to scratch when you look at our library. And again, we are Valiant Technology. We are a managed service provider. We are located in New York City, but we do have a national reach. And let's jump into our topic this week. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, let's
Great.
get going. This
Yeah.
is I think this sort of kind of came out of a bit of our cybersecurity roundup and discussion, but it became way more exploratory and explanations of how this technology works.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a give a mouse a cookie because you ask a question like, how does that work? And like, well, you have to know this, and they have to know this, and you have to know this. So this one kind of came out of our conversation last week about some cryptography and HTTPS. So really, what we're talking about is a really fundamental piece of technology that touches just about everyone and everything you do on day in, day out on the web, which is HTTPS. So it is the S after HTTP that matters, I think. Here.
But even though the S matters, the first four letters explain what makes it S. So what do those mean?
Yeah. What do those
That's a
mean?
great question, Matt.
George.
Yes. So HTTP is the hypertext transfer protocol. So that's the old school kind of web invented many, many years ago by Berners-Lee. It's a really important innovation when it came out. Basically, the idea here is that HTTP is basically how traffic travels over the internet. It's a application layer, and the S is a security piece. So, Matt, you want to start talking about why it matters and what it does?
Yeah, I do, but I want to be a little bit nerdier than you did and say that it's a protocol for delivering information over a application layer protocol of what's the name of the standard? I forget what it's called.
There's two standards you could apply: to TCP/IP model or the OSI model.
Yeah, the TCP/IP model. There's the transport layers that actually enable things to go back and forth, and then there's of course the application layer. So if you look at your transport layer, that's like the road that you may drive a car over, and the application layer is like the car that you're in. It's how information gets from point A to point B from its origin to its destination. And yeah, like you said, it's pretty much what most of the web's built off of. Everything that we do is based on a request response model. And that's really what HTTP is all about. When you type in an address into your browser bar, that's a request that's going to be made, and the page coming back to you is the response.
Right.
And we've got overlays today, so let's find an overlay.
How exciting!
Here we go. This is kind of what an HTTPS request looks like, and maybe we skipped ahead, maybe we didn't. Maybe we're going to throw you for some loops today. Who knows? When an HTTPS request is made, there's a few things that happen that go beyond the typical HTTP request, and that's that your browser doesn't just immediately request the resource, the page, the file, whatever it is that you're looking for. The first thing it does, and I like to think that browsers are incredibly thoughtful and pleasant to deal with. So the first thing it does is it requests an SSL cert file from the web server it wants to communicate to. And that's why it actually says one SSL cert, please. And, there are a bunch of other steps that go on that aren't really important for this particular discussion. Ultimately, an asset, a cert file is sent over to the web browser from the server. And that's used to encrypt any data that's going to be transmitted from the web browser over to the server. Right. So if you look at the colors in this chart, red is there's no encryption. That's plain text. That's, you type in a social security card number. Yeah, that thing's going to be readable between its origin and its destination.
Right. The best way to think of that unencrypted text is readable by a human being.
Yeah, right. It's like, and I got to give Meta credit for the commercials they did with WhatsApp about like the mailman who's like looking at everyone's mail and just happens to be open. There's like, there's nothing stopping me from just using my eyes and looking at it. It's the same idea.
Correct.
And then of course you have the yellow section here, which is where there is an action being taken to secure the connection. And then at the bottom is the green where, you're in the green. That's a good thing. So it's just a really basic diagram to explain how HTTPS works. Now, I think the question is like, why does this matter? That's always, I think, the question that you have to ask when talking about technology.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to overstep.
No.
Yeah, it's actually like how we can operate in modern, web work.
In an expected capacity, because these are things that we do on a daily basis. Now, I got another quick overlay to show and share with everyone that talks about two different things that can take place when you're not using HTTPS, when your traffic is not, when the data going back and forth between your machine and a server is not encrypted. At the top of this chart, we have, I guess, a way of illustrating eavesdropping. So let's say you've got a third party that's able to intercept traffic between you and a web server. If the data isn't encrypted and it's in plain text, they can see everything that's going on. Think of it as the equivalent of like, I don't know, don't take it personally, George, going up to your boss's door that's closed while there's a meeting and putting up the putting up the glass to it, and listening to what's going on. It's a read-only situation. You're not going to be able to manipulate what's going on, but you might learn some juicy details. And if you're doing a transaction with a e-commerce website that doesn't have an SSL cert, those juicy details could be your credit card number. It could be other pieces of personal information that you need to complete whatever transaction it is that you're doing, and leaving yourself really vulnerable in the process. Now, at the bottom of this overlay, we see something that's much more malicious. This is an active attack. It's data manipulation. And it's the same idea. You've got your attacker in the middle, the man in the middle. Think of it as like a proxy. Request gets sent to a website, but it hits them instead. They forward the request to the website. They get the response that's intended for you. They modify that response and then push it back over to you.
Right.
Now, I think that the easiest example of this, because there's so much conversation around like business email compromise and phishing and, watch out for these forms that aren't real. Let's say someone is in the middle and they can get to your traffic and they can manipulate it before it gets to you. And there's a login screen, and that login's for, I don't know, Office 365. But the destination for where that login submission process takes place has changed from Microsoft to a custom destination designed to collect information like logins and passwords.
We've had people come to us that's happened to.
It's really, it's exactly such a common the man-in-the-middle attack, such a common web attack type.
It's a common attack in normal life when you think about it. Someone in the middle getting in the way, an interloper or whatever what is that the right word?
Interloper works.
Right.
Getting one of those scammy cabs from the airport to your house, and then all of a sudden you have to pay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It's just being done in a digital manner. And, the easiest way for you to keep someone from knowing what you're talking about is to not give them access to being able to see or hear it. And that's exactly what HTTPS enables.
Right. It does three really important things. It encrypts the data as it's in flight, which is really important. So we get back to that in a second. As it's moving, its integrity, because you can't modify it. So that it is what it is, because whenever you encrypt something, it's immutable, it's unchangeable, because every time if you re-encrypted it by a change, it'd be different encryption.
Well, it's not necessarily immutable. It can be changed, but that change will be realized immediately.
Immediately, right.
It'll invalidate it.
Immediately it'll change. Immediately the encryption will change because of the change in the plain text when it's being encrypted. And it helps with authentication because it allows you to know who you're dealing with, because those SSL certificates are validated. And it's a good system. It has some flaws, as all systems do, not perfect, but it's really allows us to build some confidence in and using the web for things like banking and ordering things from Amazon and putting your credit card and
for everyday tasks. That's the thing about it. We're not talking about things that are special. We're talking about doctor's appointments, ordering that 6-pack of undershirts from Amazon. Exactly. Movie tickets, dinner reservations, you name it. A lot of these things that go on. And of course, we're talking like almost more of a personal kind of point of view on this right now. A lot of those things include sensitive information, and we're looking at these things as customers. And it's equally important for small businesses to look at it from the other side of the fence to make sure that their actions and what they're trying to put out there has a certain level of confidence that's going to allow for their business to actually function.
Right. If you're working with customers collecting any kind of information, particularly if it's personal or PII, you have to. It not only is it mandatory that you encrypt it, but it's just good business to ensure that that data is not going to be impacted or leaked out. But remember, though, as I said earlier, it's in flight, not where it ends up. So. This is really one point, and that's Drew. Thanks a lot. That's a great point. Even YouTube is encrypted.
StreamYard is
encrypted. StreamYard is encrypted. Just about everything's encrypted at this point, and it does have some challenges when you're trying to analyze data as it flows through a system, because it was the encryption. So it works. It cuts both ways. Back in the day, it was a lot easier to know what was happening. On a system that you could kind of sniff it and understand destinations. Now it's gotten much more difficult, but it's for the best in the end of the day that we encrypt this data at all points of use. So I think, Matt, what's a good way to know that your SSL is working?
You gotta just, like I said, browsers are incredibly polite. So as long as you greet it and ask nicely, you're gonna get the response.
What's your indicator?
Oh, yes. Well, the indicator is going to be the nice little padlock type icon that you're going to see in the address bar. In fact, let me just pull up the title card from today so we can look at that. It's in green here. See, nice little lock icon. And you'll see HTTPS as the protocol being used in your address bar as opposed to HTTP.
Right.
That's something that I think Google really started pushing that a number of years ago when they made that kind of like green section of the bar if your SSL cert met certain criteria. And that was great because it was a significant visual cue. They used a color. I mean, that's safe. Green means go. It's something that says it's fine to move forward. It's safe to proceed. And that was a really great move. And if it wasn't Google, congratulations to whoever did come up with it. But, I think it really kind of helped train us as people to look for certain signs of security, or at least knowing that certain steps are being taken to do something right. Nothing is perfect. I see Drew's hitting us with the comments right now. No, of course, nothing's a guarantee ever. And we're going to get to that in a future episode around how people get around some of these things. But for now, I think it's important to just, know that having an SSL certificate in place on, say, an e-commerce site or anything that you're doing is important. And it's important to make sure that the signs that are there exist, including that lock-in and address bar. It's such a simple, tiny little thing, but it makes a very big difference in the perception of, I was going to say consumers, but people in general. It's something we all look for at this point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you think about it, if you're going to go online, let's say you need a new set of mixing bowls or something like that, where are you going to go? Amazon, Crate and Barrel, Walmart, one of these places, because they have a reputation. They're large. You know that they're doing things right to at least a certain extent. And I think that we also, by default, expect them to have these types of security measures in place. And that's opposed to, and God, I hate saying this because I love supporting small businesses, but like a mom and pop shop online that's kind of got nothing in place. Who are you going to look at? Who are you going to feel more comfortable with?
But luckily, I don't know if you guys buy a lot of stuff online, because I tend to do more than I probably should. Shopify does a really great job of putting that e-commerce mechanisms in place for small medium businesses. Not to give Shopify any a credit or gas, but they, it's a great alternative to if there's larger operations, and they have a very similar
e-commerce as a service. When you think about it, right?
Right.
They're giving you all of the tools that you need to be able to handle these transactions. They're taking care of processing. They're taking care of the security. And it is a fantastic thing. In fact, I love that Shopify tends to have that tracking map on Facebook to let you know when something's coming. It's very handy. So yeah, you know what? Good job. Cool. Good job. But I guess what I'm saying is that there's certain things that we look for when we want to do business with a company. And those things that we look at as consumers isn't really that different from what, say, a business is looking for in another business.
Correct.
Or any kind of business that's delivering a service or good over the internet, especially if information is being transmitted. At the end of the day, it's a sign of trust. It's a sign of a realization and attempt to minimize risk. And it's something that everyone should be using in 2022. And having said that, I think I'm going to do a video on how to set Let's Encrypt up for people for free, because I think use it quite a bit.
That is really good.
Good tool. It's super useful. Always, and once again, not to harp on this, the third time I said it. It's in transit, in flight. Data encryption at rest is a very different conversation, very important one.
Yeah.
But outside the scope of this.
I mean, that's a whole episode on the custody of data and its life cycle, and that's what we're going to go into.
Yeah, I think that would be a great episode.
Yeah. In fact, maybe some of our compliance friends out there might want to be a part of that.
Yeah, always welcome. We're here. So, but I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I mean, this, once again, HTTP. What kind of brought this episode out was that we were talking about the what has been known as.
Let's just kind of be super transparent. I put entirely too much information into last week's thing, and we went off on like 18 tangents while preparing for last week alone. So we have something like 6 episodes worth of
content. It was a fertile topic that we realized we could.
Good editing, or good editing, and Matt is a lot of information there. And one of the things that came out in the last week's stream, that why we're doing this one is with the thing called Q Day.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, that'll be next week. Just to really quickly summarize it, Q Day is the projected day when quantum computing gets to the point where the resources for quantum computing become accessible enough to everyday people to make a lot of the security measures that we have in place right now completely irrelevant. SSL, who cares? I mean, that's ultimately what it's going to be.
And chain.
Yeah, and let's talk about that really quickly, because we actually did that really quickly today. We went through this quicker than I thought. If you look at this again, I'm sorry, guys, I just blanked out. I haven't had coffee today.
The encryption chain overlay.
Q Day. Okay, here we go. We've got this eavesdropping passive attack where you can see what's going on within the data that's going back and forth between an end user and a server. Now, let's just say that all this traffic's going over HTTPS. It's encrypted. I can't do anything with it. Of course I can do something with it. You know what I can do? I can stick it in my pocket until I have the resources to be able to decrypt all that information, and then everything inside of it all of a sudden becomes open season. There's nothing in between the someone that has the ability to remove that encryption and the data, and that's going to be Q Day. So it's a little anxiety inducing to think about in that sense, but there's also a lot of really great stuff that will come from the widespread kind of availability of quantum computing as it matures. So I think we're gonna look on both sides of it. Some of it's going to be the Terminator crushing skulls, and some of it's going to be the Terminator dancing.
I think you might have a really cool overlay for that, Matt.
I might have it. Maybe we'll use it next week. We'll see.
Maybe next week, maybe this week. I don't know. You tell me what you want to do.
I mean, if I had to do it this week, we would probably take like another 5 minutes of random conversation for you to find it and put it back in.
That's true. Maybe I think we'll use him next week.
Suspense.
Yeah.
That's what just happened here.
So just another thing I just want to make a little note here. Really important is that HTTPS is and SSL certs in particular, certificates, are part of the PKI, and not to eliminate acronyms, the public key infrastructure. It's a really crucial piece of the trust chain that's utilized every day, and people don't even realize it's working. But the PKI is what really is affected the day that the Q day happens, because they are the most quickly impacted by the collection of and the breaking of encryption.
They're kind of like the Justice League, and they're just going to get wiped out with like one quick stroke, and that'll be it.
It might be an interesting day when it happens.
Is that? Can we? I've never watched Game of Thrones. Was that like a Red Wedding kind of thing?
It's possible. It's maybe instead of I like the Terminator. It's a little more on brand,
textually appropriate.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it could be a little Red Wedding. So,
all right, I'm still never going to watch the show, but okay.
Its time has passed. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you know what? I think we spent more time talking about exactly what it is we want to be doing next than what it is that we wanted to talk about today. But that's not a bad thing, because it was actually a pretty simple topic to go into. I think it's something that everyone should know about, and it's definitely something that we're going to delve a little bit further into in the future.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In fact, I'd love to demo an HTTPS request response in real time using a terminal or something like that in the future.
That'd be really useful, and then show where the entry point for man in the middle attack.
Well, yeah, if we can create one of those in real time. I mean, we can set up a quick request response model and then have something on one of your machines actually doing the interception and showing people that as I'm talking, you're seeing something on screen that I'm putting out there. Right. That's fun. Okay, you know what? This just became like a public brainstorming session, so I think we're going to call it for the day.
This is great. Good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And everyone, please like and subscribe to our channel and our videos. Visit us at thevaliantway.com. Ask us any questions. As you can see, we really like to dive in. We like to really think about these things from all these different angles. So we're happy to answer any questions. And tune in next week, because clearly it's going to be a very exciting stream, no matter what happens.
Awesome.
A Q day. And
all right.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right.
All right, folks. Have a good one.
See you.